Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. This is your boy, the Chaotic One, and today we're doing episode 2 of the Prime Minister timeline from the years of 1809 all the way up through 1829. Now, in my opinion, making this and going through it, looking at looking through history and saying, okay, what would happen here, what would happen here, this is a very uneventful 20 years, and you'll see why here in a second. Now, in 1809, nothing noteworthy. In 1810, all we have to talk about is the 1810 federal election. Jefferson, going by Washington said, isn't serving more than 8 years. So, he is stepping down, and he's being replaced by James Madison of Virginia. And the Federalists stick with Charles Pinckney of South Carolina. James Madison leads the Democratic Republicans into making gains in the federal elections, flipping 13 congressional seats, now at 97 seats, while the Federalists are now at 45 seats, and James Madison is elected as the 4th Prime Minister. 1811, there's nothing noteworthy. However, in 1812, Prime Minister James Madison enacts an embargo on the UK, which is a catalyst for the War of 1812 because Madison, for some fucking reason, wanted to go to war with Britain. Oh yeah, they wanted Canada. In 1813, nothing noteworthy. 1814, the 1814 federal election. Of course, this is a very contested election. The Federalists, a lot of Democratic Republicans are breaking to go to the Federalist Party, including DeWitt Clinton, who is very more right-wing than his predecessor, George Clinton. However, he's becoming a Federalist, or a Democratic Republican, or a Federalist. Never mind, he's more left-wing, or right-wing, excuse me. And he decided to join the Federalists. So, very anti-war Federalist movement going on here, and they gained 25 seats while the Democratic Republicans gained 15 seats. Why do they both gain? Well, more seats are added to Congress because more states have been admitted into the United States. However, that if we were to get rid of, if we just wanted to make a net gain, the Federalists would have gained 10 seats outright over the Democratic Republicans. However, the Democratic Republicans would still have a majority. Madison would be reelected as Prime Minister, 112 seats to the Federalists' 70 seats. In 1815, the War of 1812 would end, and this is seen as a U.S. defeat. The Federalists' narrative wouldn't have been as, empty, considering they would have a lot more political clout in this timeline, and Prime Minister James Madison would fail a vote of confidence before the midterm, or I guess a special midterm election. And in 1816, the Federalists would nominate Rufus King of New York, who would lead the Federalists into gaining 26 seats over the Democratic Republicans. Again, more states have been added into the Union, so that's why it's not, even. The Federalists now have 96 seats to the Democratic Republicans' 88 seats. Rufus King ousts James Madison 2 years before he would have, stepped down, and we would have had another special election in 1820 or in 1818 if Madison and the Democratic Republicans would have retained power. However, Rufus King is elected as the 5th Prime Minister, and the Federalists would have a bounce back of power going forward. 1817, there's nothing noteworthy. Of course, the First Seminole War doesn't happen. Rufus King, very anti-war. The Federalists being anti-war in this timeline, it would pretty much succeed all war happening during King's president's or prime ministership. Is that what it's called? Anyway, in 1818, Prime Minister King would sign the Treaty of 1818, which would establish the borders around Canada and the United States, would establish borders between the U.S. territory and British territory, as well as Oregon country. In 1819, the Panic of 1819 would happen. I guess you could say the first recession / depression that would happen in the United States would happen under Prime Minister King, which would tank his approval ratings. However, he does get to sign the Land Act of 1820, which does reduce the price of land, which does help him take away some of the damage. And however, again, the Democratic Republicans would regain a majority in Congress, flipping 6 seats, a net gain of 6 seats. James Monroe leading the Democratic Republicans with 94 seats, and Rufus King and the Federalists at 90 seats. So the Democratic Republicans just flipped enough seats to regain a majority over the Federalists, and James Monroe is elected the 6th Prime Minister. 1821, there's nothing noteworthy. Monroe has a pretty boring term. In 1822, nothing noteworthy. Same thing in 1823 as well. 1824, the Federalists it's now time again. The Federalists would be railing on Monroe, saying he was a do-nothing president, and Monroe would have nothing to accomplish. And so the Federalists nominate son of the second Prime Minister, John Adams, for the leader of the Federalists, and the Democratic Republicans are sticking with Monroe. Again, more states have been added, thus the Democratic Republicans have now gained 47 seats, while the Democratic Republicans lose 18 seats, leading to Federalists having a giant sweep of Congress, 137 seats to 76 seats. John Adams is elected the seventh Prime Minister, and it is kind of funny because Adams attacks Monroe for being a do-nothing president, and Adams has a pretty much a do-nothing prime minister and has a do-nothing prime ministership in his first term. 1825, there's nothing noteworthy. 1826, nothing noteworthy. 1827, nothing noteworthy. I know, it's very ironic. 1828, however, Prime Minister Adams does sign the tariff of 1828, which is very protective of the northern economy. However, it is very destructive of the southern economy, and due to this, it kind of helps the Federalists down in the election because of the Democratic Republicans nominating John C. Calhoun of South Carolina as the leader of the party, which is seen as a very negative light in the mainstream. John C. Calhoun would be seen as too radical and would give rise to the Anti-Masonic Party, which would be led by Robert Rose of New York, who would help the party gain 5 seats in Congress. So Rose and the Anti-Masonics would gain 5 seats, while the Federalists gained 23 seats, giving them 160 seats, while the Democratic Republicans would lose 28 seats. Now they have 48 seats. Very little numbers, as in our timeline, the Federalists were gone at this point, and now it seems like the Democratic Republicans could disappear eventually. In 1829, the Cincinnati riots of 1829, which of course would be an increase in crime, of course. I think this is over tariffs as well as race. It could be, I think so. And we also have the Georgia Gold Rush, which does give a boost to the economy because more people are going down to Georgia and getting gold, selling the gold, getting money, a boost in the economy. And so, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Probably not what you expected to happen. Probably not. But, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the Chaotic One saying, peace.